On today's episode of Time About the Movies, Pixar makes its first major misfire, which is hard to believe because this is now 16 years since Toy Story came out, and now all of a sudden they have this one movie come out and it kind of turns out to be not the big success they were hoping for. We'll take a look at that with Cars 2. Cameron Diaz and Jason Segel and Justin Timberlake star in the latest raunchy summer comedy, Bad Teacher, and Conan O'Brien Can't Stop. I don't even have anything for you. That's literally the title of the movie. It's Conan O'Brien's documentary from his legally prohibited from being on television tour from 2010. They made a movie out of it. We're going to talk about that along with the other two movies. It's June 24th, 2011. This is Time About the Movies.
Cars 2.
I think you can kind of see the major problem with Cars 2 right from the get-go, but we're going to delve into that in a little bit here. But welcome to Time About the Movies. Today we are taking a look at the three films that wrap up June 2011 on this June 24th. And our first movie is Cars 2, and like I said, right from the get-go, you could pretty much tell where Cars 2 kind of went wrong here, because this time around, it's race car Lightning McQueen, voiced by Owen Wilson, and tow truck Mater, played by Larry the Cable Guy once again, heading to Japan and Europe to compete in the World Grand Prix, but Mater becomes sidetracked with international spies Finn McMissile, voiced by Michael Caine, and Holly Shipwell, voiced by Emily Mortimer. So let's just get this out of the way. Spy movie. Why? Why do we need a spy movie element in this movie? The first film had nothing to do with spies. The first film had nothing to do with what the hell they were trying to do in this film. It could work if you had a hook to it, or it's actually pretty good. But, as I said before, this is Pixar's first real misfire critically, and you can kind of see why it failed right from the get-go, because of the fact that right from the get-go, the plot makes no sense whatsoever. Like, why are we adding a spy element to this? Like, there's no reason why Cars has to have the same type of a plot line that The Incredibles do. Like, I get the feeling, because this is John Lasseter's baby all the way through. Cars was his baby from the get-go. I get the feeling that John Lasseter went up to Pixar Creative one day and said, you know, it's time to make another Cars movie. And in fact, honestly, he probably wants something a little like this.
Hello, I'm John Lasseter. I think it's time we make a sequel to Cars.
Okay, Mr. Lasseter, what's your idea for Cars 2?
I don't know.
I mean, to a lesser extent, it's probably that, but I hope you enjoyed my little bit of comedy there. But I mean, anyway, back to this movie here. Like, the first Cars movie, I didn't hate as much as everybody else did. I thought it was just an okay movie. It's definitely the weakest of the Pixar animated movies, but it's not god awful. And Larry the Cable Guy was pretty good as Mater in there, and he was actually one of the things from the first movie that I actually thought was pretty good. And it was an overall fun animated movie. But this one, kind of like with On Stranger Tides earlier in the summer, there's a reason why, you know, a great character from a previous movie should probably be relegated to just being a supporting role or a side character than actually being the main character, because just like with On Stranger Tides, a lot more of Mater goes a long way in this one, because yeah, he's the focal point of this movie. Lightning McQueen's kind of pushed off to the side in this particular film when you really think about it. But yeah, this is a film that just it's bad, but it's not a mess overall. I mean, Pixar has made a lot worse. I mean, I will see your Cars 2 and raise you The Good Dinosaur. Like, The Good Dinosaur to me is the absolute worst thing Pixar has ever been associated with. That movie is nothing but Diet Land Before Time, and I'll get to that one in 2015. But I mean, there are times when stuff could work here. The animation does look pretty cool. Sometimes the comedy is pretty good, and the spy movie genre element, as much as I don't like it all the way through, Pixar does at least a pretty good job of adding a little bit of flair to it to make it kind of stand out. And even the new characters here, Finn McMissile and Holly Shipwell, they're a lot of fun to watch in here. I do like the little bit of chemistry that she has with Mater in this case, but the biggest problem with Cars 2 is that it doesn't have that same charm from the movies that Pixar have been making ever since Toy Story. Like, you know, we're going to remember characters like Woody and Buzz Lightyear. We remember characters like Carl Fredricksen. We remember people like Russell and Doug the dog, Wally and Eve. You know, these great characters. Remy from Ratatouille. I mean, these are characters that we're going to come to remember for a long time. And at least in my opinion, I don't think the Cars movie characters really hold up well at all. But hey, they're still a big draw. I mean, they're building a Cars. There's a Cars land out in California for a reason. So at least there's at least somewhat of what am I trying to say here? There is at least a little bit of a fandom with the Cars franchise, with kids at least, but no adult really remembers the Cars characters as a whole. And honestly, a movie like this kind of makes you makes you realize, oh wow, there was no reason to make this movie whatsoever, except the fact that I really do think that, you know, Pixar probably didn't want to make a Cars sequel this quickly, but, you know, John Lasseter's the guy that probably said... John Lasseter knew that he said that they wouldn't do sequels to the movies unless they had a good story. I really do think that Disney basically told them to make the sequel because Cars sells more merchandise than the Toy Story films. Like I said, they're building Cars for... There's Cars locations in Disneyland. And there's going to be one in Disney World, Magic Kingdom in a couple of years, but... I mean, that's just my theory on how this got made, because nothing really that I saw in this movie says this was warranted of a sequel that needed to be made. This felt like it was being rushed from the get-go. And yeah, it's not a great movie overall. It's not a bad one either, but at the same time, I'll give it this. There are a couple of elements I did like. I did like the animation. I thought the comedy overall worked. Even the way that Mater kind of gets the main bad guy at the end. Like, I like the little plan that he had, you know, go right to the queen and all that, and the person that they're there with, and just said, all right, if I'm going out, I'm taking all you motherfuckers with me, and like that's a great little thing they do at the end there. Like, that was pretty fun. If the movie had been the rest of that I probably would have been much nicer to it, but as it is, it just doesn't work because it falls into predictable territory with you know, there's a stupid subplot about, you know, Lightning McQueen, you know, getting embarrassed by Mater, and it's just like, you know, they're gonna have the big third act breakup where everyone has to go their separate ways, and it's just like, come on, man, you're Pixar, you're better than this, and sadly, this one just isn't. I mean, this movie, this is really one of the worst things they've done. I mean, this is bad, but like I said, Good Dinosaur is still far, far worse. But this is definitely on the lower end of the Pixar movies. I mean, Cars at least was a better film than this. And yeah, Cars 3 was better. At least Cars 3 got back to what Cars was all about. But even then, that film kind of disappointed with the way the film was marketing it. But overall, yeah, I'm very mixed on this one. I don't like it, but I don't hate it either. But I just expect a whole lot more from Pixar in general, and this feels like this is beneath them to do a film this badly put together. I mean, they very rarely make any really bad films. This is definitely on the lower end of the films that they make, so take that for what you will, and at least be grateful that the next Cars movie they make is going to be better. And you know, they showed off the preview for their next movie, Brave, and everyone thought that it was going to be their return to form, and needless to say, that wasn't the case. But we'll get to that one eventually when we get to 2012. But this one, I didn't like it as much as most kids probably do. But hey, maybe these aren't made for me. Maybe they're made specifically for the kids. So on that front, let's go ahead and move on to stuff that should not be made for the kids. But we are slowly getting back on track here as we start off with the worst of the three films we have here, and then we get to second best of the three, and that is, of course, Bad Teacher.
Bad Teacher, rated R, June 24th.
I mean, that trailer right there is a good sum up of this movie and how much I enjoyed the hell out of it, because I did really enjoy the hell out of this movie when it first came out. Has it held up since? Let's talk about it. A booze-swelling, pot-smoking, hard-swearing 7th grade teacher rallies to get out of the classroom for good by wrangling a rich substitute teacher into marriage in this comedy from director Jake Kasdan, who gave us Walk Hard. Cynical teacher Elizabeth, played by Cameron Diaz, hates her job. She can't wait for the day she finds a man who makes her enough cash to let her walk away from her life of middle school misery. And when her fiancé cancels their wedding plans, her frantic search intensifies. Just when it starts to look like Elizabeth will have to muscle her way through another semester of skull-crushing hangovers, however, handsome substitute Scott Delacour, played by Justin Timberlake, shows up at school sporting a fancy wristwatch and the promise of a carefree future. But in order for her meal ticket to come true, Elizabeth will have to out-cute perky fellow teacher Amy, played by Lucy Punch, and it won't be easy, because Scott is crushing on Amy hard. Now, if Elizabeth can just motivate her students to study so that she can win a state contest to earn enough cash for some new breast implants, perhaps she can find a means of diverting Scott's gaze. Meanwhile, much to Elizabeth's chagrin, wisecracking, self-efficient gym teacher Russell, played by Jason Segel, refuses to admit defeat despite being turned down for a date by her gold-digging colleague time and time again. That premise alone should pretty much tell you what you're in for here. And this is essentially Bad Santa, except let's replace Billy Bob Thornton with Cameron Diaz and have her be a teacher instead of being a mall Santa. And there's nothing wrong with that, because it's cool to see somebody like Cameron Diaz go back to the raunchy territory and actually have it work, unlike something like The Sweetest Thing, which, yeah, this movie is more There's Something About Mary than The Sweetest Thing was. There are parts of it that don't work, but the main stars of the movie knock it out of the park. Cameron Diaz, Justin Timberlake, Jason Segel, Lucy Punch, they work off each other so well. Some of the things I didn't like about the movie, kind of like with another film that we're going to get to, Horrible Bosses, the originality isn't really there in this one. I thought some of the jokes overall were just kind of okay, but there were some good laugh-out-loud moments there, and I am getting sick and tired of poop jokes being thrown in there for no purpose whatsoever. If anything, Justin Timberlake I kind of felt was sort of miscast in here. I liked him in the film, but I mean, I really felt like somebody like a Neil Patrick Harris really probably should have played that role. But then again, I like How I Met Your Mother so much, and that guy is one of the great entertainers we have out there. I'd rather see him in more movies than Justin Timberlake, but the real knockout of the movie is Cameron Diaz, who does a really good job providing really good funny moments in here. Somebody who just does not give two shits about her job whatsoever. The stuff she does and gets away with in this movie. You see it in that trailer where, she's throwing the dodgeballs at the kids, and one of the kids throws it back at her. That's funny stuff. That's stuff that makes this all the worthwhile in the end. Jason Segel I thought was pretty good too, although I kind of felt he was kind of underused here, but hey, he does have one of the memorable moments in the movie where he's literally clowning on a kid for saying that LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan, which I'm sorry to tell you this, Michael Jordan is better than LeBron James, no matter how hard LeBron tries. Sorry to tell you that, but that's the God-honest truth here. But, he only shows up in a couple of scenes, but he does make it worth his while. Lucy Punch I thought was overall pretty good as the obnoxious teacher and her enemy in this. John Michael Higgins and Phyllis Smith from The Office were surprisingly really good here too. And Jake Kasdan overall is very good at directing these type of films. I mean, he did Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox Story, a criminally underrated gem of a film. And this was written by Gene Stupnitsky and Lee Eisenberg from The Office, who would later go on to do No Hard Feelings recently. It's a really fun movie. It's a really fun film that delivers what it promises. I like the fact that this film does not even bother to do the liar exposed cliche. Like, this doesn't do what a movie like Cars 2 does, and I am so grateful for that. I had to give the movie another star because of that alone, but yeah, this is a good comedy, but there has been a lot of really fun comedies. There has not been a whole lot of fun raunchy comedies as of late, but a movie like this definitely makes it worth its while in the end here. Surely no network is going to go ahead and make a TV series adaptation and completely butcher it by pandering down to its audience. Oh wait, CBS did that a couple years later, and what a shocker, it didn't last very long. Well, why? Wow, what did you think was going to happen there? Like, why would you take a Bad Teacher TV series to CBS of all places, the network that brought us The Big Bang Theory and 2.5 Men? Do you really think a show like Bad Teacher would fit in that category of shows? Didn't think so. But yeah, Bad Teacher overall, it's a fun movie. I give it points for being really funny overall. Not one of the better raunchy comedies, but still pretty good. So with that said, let's go ahead and get to the crowning achievement of the entire weekend, and that is, of course, the documentary Conan O'Brien Can't Stop.
This is a cool opportunity for me. This is my opportunity to tell you who I am, how I grew up, and how I came to be. Do you want to hear this story? It's a pretty good story.
Yeah, it's a pretty fascinating story when you take a look at it overall. But yeah, this documentary is pretty amazing. This, of course, takes place not but a few months after Conan O'Brien had departed The Tonight Show, after Jay Leno was basically given whatever he wanted to do and basically knocked Conan out of a job that he should have had, but no. Jay Leno had to go back to The Tonight Show so badly, and I mean, you've seen the documentary that I did, so if you have not though, here it is right there in the corner, so you can get the answers there. But this takes place during the summer of 2010, where he decides to put together a comedy tour before he eventually makes his return to TBS the following November. And it follows him and his staff through the run of the tour, and for somebody who didn't get a chance to see the Conan O'Brien's thing whenever it was playing around here, because it never came to town, honestly, and I really couldn't believe that they didn't bring it here. It's just like, why would you not bring that here, man? You realize how many people would have come to this in a heartbeat? I would have come to that in a heartbeat, but sadly, it never came here, and the whole thing, and the whole documentary is about how Conan O'Brien explaining the idea of how this tour came together and going all these different places. He's got all these different celebrities coming in to join him on the tour, and, you know, it's a very interesting documentary that basically shows, you know, all the things that he does behind the scenes. You find out watching this that Conan O'Brien really is that guy on TV that we see all the time. Like, this is a guy that, this is not a performer, this is not an act for him overall. Like, this is a guy that's still, that guy you see on late night TV, this is the guy you see in real life, and you see it all over the place, not just in this, but also in a movie, in his podcast and all that. Like, this guy does not feel like somebody who's just playing this for an act overall. This feels like a real guy, and that's why I'm always so fascinated by Conan O'Brien, because, as I said in the documentary that I did, this is a guy that really was just, you know, he had to work to get everything he needed to do to be successful. I mean, think about it. This is a guy that, you know, fought to get noticed on Saturday Night Live. You know, he got, you know, eventually he made its way to The Simpsons. He auditioned for the Tonight Show, not the Tonight Show, the Late Night Show when David Letterman left. When they picked him, everybody thought that this guy was dead on arrival. When he premiered, he wasn't off to the best start overall, and essentially he had to really struggle to stay on the air that first season. I mean, there was literally a point where they were only renewing him for certain periods of time, and it's just kind of like, you know, anybody like that had so much pressure put on him. And then eventually it worked out for him, because he would eventually have the big success overall with Late Night. He finally got the job as the host of the Tonight Show, and again, Jay Leno screwed him over big time. So did NBC, and it's just like, you know, this is the guy that had to struggle to get everything he needed to eventually reach the point that he is now. And it feels like this guy never lost who he really was. Like, he always seems like a guy that, you can easily trust. Like, you can see a guy that, you know, he's working his butt off. He's doing everything he can to get where he needs to go. And he feels like somebody that always gets pushed off to the side. And, you know, it wasn't until what happened with him at the Tonight Show when people started to realize that this guy has been through so much, and the fact that you see it in this movie, these tours sell out so quickly. You see it in the audiences that go to see the show. It's amazing. Like, it is incredible to see how much the world loves this guy, and it just makes you hate Jay Leno even more, because of the fact that he weaseled his way back to the Tonight Show when he was way past his prime to do that. This documentary does a very good job of showing what Conan O'Brien is all about, and getting to see the show in general. It's a really damn good documentary, and not only that, you get to see people working behind the scenes. The most incredible thing about this is that the people that you get more attached to when you watch the movie. They spend a lot of time on the relationship between Conan and his assistant Sonia, who again, she seems like a very likable person, somebody that has been with Conan for the longest time and knows exactly how to deal with him, and you could tell they have a nice connection together. And this movie makes you realize how good she is, that she later would show up a lot more on the TBS show. And essentially, when Conan O'Brien decided to just not do the typical late night show as much as he did before, and expand it out more, and he gets more creative control to do what he wants, I mean, it's just a fascinating thing with Conan O'Brien, with what he's been through all his career, and the fact that, you know, he introduces people that you get so attached to. Like in the decade when he was on TBS, not only do you get introduced to Sonya more, and you start to like her whenever she shows up, but also Jordan Stolansky. Who else? Who's another person that is on the TBS show a lot? I can't remember. And Aaron Blair, who does the Clueless Gamer segments. I mean, it's the most fascinating thing about Conan O'Brien, is that somebody who had been on late night for 17 years, and also the Tonight Show, you know, finds the second coming of his career, where he gets a chance to do whatever he wants to do. And I mean, he just goes with it. I mean, he didn't just do the same thing he'd been doing for years now. He expanded. He took on much more bigger opportunities, and it worked out well in his favor. And like I said, I consider him to be the greatest entertainer out there that we have right now. We have a lot of guys out there. I just mentioned one beforehand, with Neil Patrick Harris being another one. Seth MacFarlane's a really good entertainer. Now I got to think about what some other great entertainers. But there is a good list of some really solid entertainers that anytime you see them in anything, you got to be there. H. John Benjamin's another one I would throw in. Hell, even Bob Odenkirk. I'm just thinking about him because Nobody 2's coming out this weekend as I'm recording this. Like, there are a lot of really good entertainers out there, but Conan O'Brien right now is probably the best one we have because you never can tell how far he's going to go with it. And every time he does it, he just knocks it. Every time he does something, he just knocks it out of the park, man. But this documentary, trying to get back to this in general, but it does a good job showing that Conan, even though he's going through all this craziness, can still keep a stiff upper lip and just go out there and do what he does best. And it is great to see that even though Conan enjoys during the tour, he still misses being around his family, and you still see him, in the aftermath of every show, like he's just contemplating to himself, and it's really a fascinating film overall, and this is just... It really is one of the strongest movies of the year, and easily one of the best documentaries I've ever seen. This is one, kind of like with Waking Sleeping Beauty, it's one I always go back to every once in a while, because it's just like, I get fascinated every time I watch this. It's just such a very entertaining documentary, a lot of fun. It does feel slow in some parts, but not to the point where I didn't like watching the rest of it. I mean, it's just a terrific film, and if you love Conan O'Brien, you're one of those people that didn't get to see that Legally Prohibited from being on television tour, which I really would have loved to see that, but it never came around here. I think the closest it ever came to was in the middle of the state of Pennsylvania, which is like several hours away. I probably could have drove out there if I wanted to, but I just didn't have the time or the money to really get out there, unfortunately. But if you didn't get to see that, this is definitely a film that I think will definitely serve you well enough to check it out and see what you missed out on, because it is a very fascinating documentary. It's Conan O'Brien doing what Conan O'Brien does best, and as the title indicates, he can't stop being such a damn good entertainer. And thus, with all that said, we wrap up another episode of Time About the Movies, and the next time we meet, we'll head into the second half of 2011. The first half was pretty bad. Hopefully we'll get better, and I guess Transformers Dark of the Moon is a way to start it off, and it's definitely better than Revenge of the Fallen, but does that mean it's a good movie? Well, stay tuned tomorrow to find out. But we also have Larry Crown, Tom Hanks, back in the director's chair for the first time since 1996's That Thing You Do, which was one of my favorite movies, and he also has Julia Roberts along for the ride. So clearly it took him 15 years to make this film, so it has to be good, right? Again, we'll talk about that tomorrow. And not only that, the Family Stone director, Thomas Bezucha, is back with a new movie, Monte Carlo, with Selena Gomez, Leighton Meester, and Katie Cassidy, which this already is a much better movie than Leighton Meester's The Roommate was, but again, does that make that a good movie either? All those answers and more will come tomorrow on the show, so definitely be on the lookout for that. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, and also don't forget to check out the playlist and check out the last episode we did. So with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.